Y'all forgot to tell me to record.
Oh shit.
It's okay. I just sorted it.
All right.
This is so weird. Yeah. Oh man. Did you get some rest?
Yeah, I slept. Tried to sleep. I had to.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep then. I was like too wired to wake up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, I think I woke up. So
Yeah. Right. Good times.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was a good shoot.
Yeah, really, really good.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I think we got some good stuff. Does anyone have any questions? Oh yeah, I can give you SD cards.
You know, it's falling off.
Do you guys need an SD card?
I think I'm going.
Actually,
I want to work with the Mark one, so that's why I'm like, oh god.
oh yeah, the Mark one is slightly different. If you want, once we get these set up, you can use the Mark II for practice.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
Yep, the only casualty was 2 sandbags.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's not so bad. They died somehow.
Yeah, one of them.
Exactly. And then that battery that was smoking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was.
That was the school's battery. But yep. That's okay. Now we know.
You did it on a cessation program or something?
The battery? Yeah, I mean, it's been trying, but pretty addictive.
I think it takes like 5 times to actually get it done.
Exactly. Yeah, it was pretty scary. We just like plugged it into a monitor and it just starts to snap. So took that battery out quickly.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Is everyone? Oh, hands. Okay, so yeah, good question.
Yeah.
This handle, what the hell is up with this handle? So this handle, we don't even need to attach it today. This is if you're going to attach a mic. So if you, the nice thing also about, the thing that really I think separates this from like your DSLR is this audio capacity. So you can actually plug in XLR cables and put a shotgun mic on here. And if you do that, then you'll attach this to the audio to this area right here, and then the audio signal from the mic actually gets transferred to the camera directly. So documentary filmmakers will often have a shotgun mic attached to the top of the camera, just because it's more run and gun flexible. For narrative films, obviously, you usually have a separate sound recorder with a boom. But it's nice that this camera has it, but it even has the ability to change, the levels of this mic. So that's what this handle is for. This handle is also useful if you're doing some kind of a shot where you're holding it. So, I mean, if you feel like attaching it, we might as well do it. So go ahead and it just slides in. You'll have to loosen this screw at the top. And then just tighten it. You don't have to plug in the audio cable if you're not going to attach well, actually you will if you want to use that trigger up there. Yeah, just be careful with this plug here. This is one of those plugs that has a lot of tiny little wires that go into a lot of tiny little holes. So you want to line, this is important, guys. To plug in this cable, line up the white arrow to the white arrow. Otherwise, you'll be playing a very difficult puzzle game. White arrow, white arrow. Yeah, it goes into the external EXT. The port that says EXT. So yeah, this handle is pretty useful if you're doing any kind of handheld shot and you want to sort of hold it from here. All right. Are you guys? What'd you say?
I was just checking out that.
Oh yeah, it's a lens.
Yeah.
There's a lens in the bag. All right. So yeah, if you had a shotgun mic, you can attach it here. All right. Everyone ready for lenses? So yeah, in this kit, so if you check these out from the school, they come with a zoom lens. It's a 24 to 105 zoom lens. Prime lenses are obviously going to be more beautiful and higher quality, but this again, if you're a documentary filmmaker or you're just kind of like moving fast, zoom lenses are very useful because you can change the lens right on one lens. So if you check out this camera from school, you probably want to check out the Rokinon lenses with it. And those ones are really pretty decent prime lenses. So that's usually what we check out when we check out these. But yeah, so to put on the lens, I'm sure you all know, you want to be careful, cover this with your hand. Usually changing lenses on a set is like a two-person job. You have your AC, do your lens thing. But in this case, and remember, make sure to line up this red dot with the top of here and go ahead and put your lens on. So yeah, you want to actually get this one open first and then quickly line up red dot to red dot and turn it to the left until you hear a click. And then your lens is on. So yeah, go ahead and yeah, remember you want to, just try to have your lens ready to go on before you take off the body cap. And as you can see, the camera has now increased in weight. Double.
What's my lens today?
As a gauge?
Yeah.
Well, the Rokinons are what is usually able to be checked out by like classes that are using the c100. If you're in like an advanced filmmaking class, you may have access to the city primes, but I'm not sure if undergrads ever have access to the city primes. Do you know?
I've heard that it was.
Yeah, they're very expensive. They're like far more expensive than the cameras themselves. So yeah, I mean, you could try to wheel and deal, but the Rokinons are very good. And like you'll notice the difference, like in terms of this versus that, it's gonna be much, much nicer.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely it's good I was gonna bring some Rokinons over today, but too much stuff on the card. But that's something to play, like it's very interesting to try different lenses and see what, how they look. So yeah, but these ones are perfectly fine for today's purposes. So yeah, now you have your lens, you have your battery, you have your card, and I think we're ready to turn this thing on. Does anyone know how to do that? Oh, you already did.
Yeah, they did that already.
Yeah, you're right. Amazing. Yeah.
It says, I think you put it to camera.
Exactly. So yeah, if you want to shoot, you put it to camera. If you want to watch what you shot, you turn it to media. Sorry, forget about you guys over here. I'm not sure you can really see what we're doing, but if you have any questions.
I could see.
Really?
It's okay. Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm looking at photos too, so I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, for now, let's turn it to camera since we don't really have anything here. Does anyone know what this lock mechanism does? If you turn it past camera to lock.
Just in case you don't like bump it.
Yeah, so say you're shooting in some kind of a sort of crazy situation where you think you might be bumping dials, you can get your settings set properly and then turn it to lock. And then if you accidentally swivel this, you're not going to change the f-stop. So the lock is useful. I mean, it's only if you're in a situation like that. But this is also something that can cause you problems. Half of the time students are like, I can't change anything, what's going on? And then it's just because you turned it to lock. So know that is a thing. So yeah, go ahead and turn it on. And you should see nothing because you probably still have your lens cap on. If you take the lens cap off, you will see things, hopefully, through your monitor. Does everyone have a picture? You'll also see something through your viewfinder if you choose to use that. But I personally think with these, it's very cumbersome to shoot this way. But yeah. All right, so let's just systematically go through how to quickly change various things. Oh yeah, well, first of all, let's talk about the lens. So who knows what the different settings on the lens are all about? Yeah.
At least know autofocus and manual focus.
Yeah, so what's the difference? So does everyone see that switch here?
So autofocus, if you point it at something, it will try to correct the focus and bring, I don't know how it determines the object, but it'll try to bring that into focus.
Yeah.
Manual focus, it does not do that. You can just mess with it.
Yeah, exactly. So autofocus is usually not what people want to use unless, again, you're in a documentary situation, you're like running with the camera and you don't have the second AC and you're not, adjusting things on the fly. The problem with autofocus, as you say, is the camera is the one deciding what to put into focus. So you can't, say I'm shooting you here, it'll probably just pick whoever's in the middle to focus on. But if I wanted her in focus and other people out of focus, or if I wanted to have this in focus and you guys out of focus, or vice versa, the camera wouldn't know that. So, autofocus has its limitations. But yeah, this just switches between the two. You can set in here what you want the autofocus modality to be, whether you want it to be face detection or whatever's in the middle or whatever. But in general, it's easier to use manual focus unless you have a good reason not to. So yeah, that's that. What about these two rings? What do they do? Yeah.
Zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah, so the first ring here changes what lens you're using, right? So we have a 24, the widest lens, all the way to a 105. And what about this one?
The focus.
Yes, this is the focus. So if we're not in autofocus, changing this will change the focus. So why don't you guys, well, let's actually get all the settings first. But you can play with this for a second if you want to. Just try, why don't everyone put their camera in manual focus and just practice, I don't know. Actually, if you change it to 105, it'll be easier to see focus distinctions. So change your lens to 105 and just point it at something that you want to focus on and try bringing that object into focus. If anyone wants to use this camera, you can.
Does lens have the internal stabilizer as well? Lens has the stabilization, right?
Oh, it does indeed. So yeah.
So then how does that lens do with the cameras? Does the camera have an internal stabilizer?
That's
as well.
I don't know. I would guess probably no, because this camera is not the newest camera on the planet.
Okay.
But the lens, yeah, you probably want to turn. I mean, stabilization can be helpful, especially if you're doing any kind of movement. If you're not moving, there's no need to have that on.
Canon just introduced in-body image stabilization.
Right, exactly.
And only on their DSLR
Right.
mirrorless cameras, not their cinema.
Exactly. I mean, this camera is really meant to mostly be on a tripod shooting. So yeah. So yeah, that is the lens. So now let's talk about how to do everything else. On the sheet here, you'll see that the next step, usually after putting everything on, is formatting your card. So let's first figure out how to get into the menu. So there's a few ways to do it. One way is to just push the menu button, which is on your screen. For you guys, the menu button, exactly right there. So yeah. What's so funny?
It's just front heavy.
Oh, it doesn't stand up. Yeah. That does happen. Yeah, mine doesn't either. Well, these also have this weird plate that I don't know why the SFSU cameras have that. But anyways, so yeah, there it stands because I don't have that thing on there. Anyways, push the menu button. And I find this menu to be a little unintuitive, but we'll quickly go through it. So everyone get into the menu. And the way you control the menu is the joystick that's on this handle. Or there's a joystick on your screen, but it's a lot easier to use the one here. So go ahead and scroll down. So basically the way it works is there's different submenus which are delineated by these icons. So there's camera, which is camera settings, audio, basically output, viewfinder setup, time code, and then the wrench. The wrench is where a lot of good stuff is. So remember that one. And then the star, which is like if you want to do custom menu stuff. But for now, let's scroll down to the wrench. So scroll down to the wrench. And then the way you select to get into the wrench menu is just by clicking with your little toggle thing. Do you want to try this?
Sure.
Yeah, here, why don't I just explain it to you and you can do it. So yeah, you're in, yeah, just try. Yeah, so you're in the wrench now.
Oh, this is right.
So you'll know which submenu you're in because it's highlighted orange. So yeah, once you're in the wrench, scroll down very far, and then you'll see at some point, I think you went too far. That's okay.
Scrolls forever.
You're looking for movie format. Well, actually, no, that's changing whether it's MP4 or not. What you're looking for is initialized. Oh no, you're looking for initialized media.
Yes.
So we have the
It might be under other functions. Oh,
Oh, here we go.
yeah. So does everyone find initialized media? Okay, so now click this and say SDA, and then do quick initialize. You don't have to do complete, and then say OK, and then it gets your card ready to shoot on.
Nice.
Is everybody there? Any questions? Cool. All right, we've initialized. Okay, this is now. Let's go to. It's also in the wrench. We want to make sure we're shooting in MP4 mode versus AVCHD. If you shoot an AVCHD, it's not the end of the world, but your files are a little more cumbersome to deal with. So, does everyone see that? I think it's called shooting format. Where are we there? And then choose MP4.
Moving forward, right?
Yes, MP4. Yeah, no worries.
Not letting us do quick.
Oh. It's not letting me do anything, it looks like. Did you put your, oh yeah. This is like a major pitfall that actually confused the heck out of me. You have to close this. Otherwise, for some reason, the camera doesn't understand that it has an SD card in it. So yeah, go ahead and, yeah. That took me like half an hour to figure out.
Well, I think you don't close it. It just doesn't.
Yeah, you can't shoot if you don't do that. Okay, are we all there? Sweet. Okay. Now I'm gonna borrow this camera one more time just to show a few more things. All right, now we're ready to go, except we have to set the settings to make our image look how we want, right? So let's get out of the menu. To get out, you just press menu again. And obviously you could go down the rabbit hole with the menu. There's a million things on tutorials on YouTube to learn about all these nuances, but today we're just going to go over the basics. So let's just look at the buttons. Basically, all the main buttons are going to be on the left side of the camera here. And one nice thing about these cameras that also distinguishes them from DSLRs is it has built-in ND filters. So go ahead and turn the ND wheel and see what happens.
Can you show that to the?
Yes. Let's see. So this is the left side of the camera, and that is where all the good buttons are. So if you turn the ND filter, you can see that we just knocked ourselves down quite a few stops.
How many stops has the ND filter on this camera?
It actually has multiple settings. So ND1 is 2 stops. ND 3 is 6 stops. Basically, it's 2 stops per ND. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super, super useful. Otherwise, you're, putting on ND filters on the lens. So yeah, that's one thing. Then, basically, okay, so let's go back to no ND filters just so we can see. So, like I said before, the handle has this very handy dandy wheel that allows you to change the f-stop. So go ahead and play with that for a second. Here, I'll show you guys. Basically, this is f-stop right here. Pretty handy. And what do you notice? What is f-stop?
That's how open your lens is.
Exactly. So
Yeah, for
actually,
sure.
go ahead and look at this lens as I change the f-stop. Do you see what's happening? What's going on? I'm opening it.
It's really hard to see unless you're like.
Yeah,
close
I
up.
can.
Actually, you know what? I think it's easier to see
You can't see
here.
the shutter.
Okay.
mixing it.
Well, yeah, that's true. You actually can if you turn your lens to a 105.
Oh,
But in any case, it's opening and closing. It's allowing more or less light in, basically. So the lower the number of your f-stop, the wider open your lens is.
you're looking like the-
And this camera can go from f-stop, well, it should be 2.8. Right now I'm seeing 4, but to 22. All right, so that's that. That's super important. Then, so say you aren't quite sure, you don't have a light meter with you, and you aren't quite sure what your f-stop should be. You can also push button number 12, which is auto iris. And that will give the camera's best guess of what your f-stop should be. And then you still might want to check it, but like it's a good way to get in the ballpark. So go ahead and try and change your f-stop to something wild and then push that and see what happens. Are you guys good over here? I mean, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
show this, but
I'm looking at the picture on BNH. It has like the whole side view of the controls.
nice, cool. Awesome. Okay, so everyone understands how that works. Cool. Now let's look at white balance. So who can explain what white balance is?
White balance in the simplest form is basically you have to tell the camera what color is white. So you just
Exactly.
want to basically let the camera know with either a white piece of paper or white background and let it know like, hey, this is white, and that way it'll balance the colors around that focal white point.
Right, exactly, because light is different, right? All light has a different color temperature. Does anyone know what the color temperature of daylight is?
In Daly City or?
Well,
on
this
the
is a good
sunny-
question. I mean, obviously, it varies wildly depending on what's going on. But basically, indoor light has a very different color temperature usually than outdoor. In the old days, tungsten light bulbs would give off a very like yellow kind of cast. So basically, if you don't set your white balance correctly, your colors might look really weird. And obviously, we all know you can color correct things, but it's better to record things with the right white balance setting. So the white balance buttons are over here on this side here. Here, why don't you play with this for a second? So yeah, it's what basically the one on the bottom, if you click the one on the bottom that says white balance, you'll see a little thing pop up on the menu that has a light bulb on it. And this allows you to, you can use your toggle thing once you're in this. Here, it's kind of hard to explain. Let me try that. So you press this white balance button, and then you can use your little toggle thing to change, oh God, to change between auto white balance, setting A, setting B, sunlight, tungsten, etc. Or, which you can actually dial in the number you want by going over here and just clicking, oops. Anyways, you can play with this if you want. This is like, we don't have to get too into the weeds of this, but you can actually dial it in and punch it 3200. If you know, if you're using an LED light, it'll actually, you can actually choose what color temperature you want, and then you can just dial it in on here, and then you know you're correct. If you're not, if you have no idea, you can white balance it by doing auto white balance and putting a piece of white paper in front of the camera and clicking the auto white balance. We can do that right now if you guys want. It looks like they are doing that. Are you having any luck?
Well, focus is not gonna happen on a pure white screen.
No. It doesn't have to be focused. You just,
It's the hand, it's the hand.
well, try, you can zoom in so that you lose the hand. Here, do you want to try?
Yes. Thanks.
That would be
Yeah.
Right here.
Watch it. Yeah. Here, let me help you. There's that. And go ahead and, yeah, so your white balance on. Go ahead, go to the auto white balance. It's using the little toggle thing. So look, now we're in this orange thing.
Yeah.
So now we're in auto white balance. So now it's auto white balancing for this paper. What did you guys get for your auto white balance number?
Just fun to see a different camera than I've used before.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds about right. Cool. So yeah, that's white balance. So we've got white balance. Okay, so the last thing you really want to make sure you have going on correctly here is your ISO. So the ISO is the sensitivity to light. And the way you change that is with button number 13. So go ahead and click that. And these cameras have a native ISO of 850. So, and it has a little bracket around it. I know, weird. But that's what it is. Yeah. So basically, go ahead and click the ISO button, and then again, use your toggle thing to get to, and it'll have a bracket around it, which means, you know, that's the native one. So yeah, and then let's see. So now, as you can see, do you have an ND filter going on here? Okay. See, that looks pretty good. So yeah, now our picture is looking better. So yeah, 850. We're getting a white balance of like 3,400 over here.
It's getting 38.
Okay, well, you know, yeah, it's gonna vary depending on like where you are in this group. But so anyways, that's basically, oh yeah, the shutter speed. the last function you want to be aware of. So you'll see the shutter button right next to the ISO button. So go ahead and click that. And you want your shutter speed usually to be 1 over double whatever frame rate you're shooting at. Oh yeah, and frame rate you're also going to choose in this menu, but it should be 2397. Is that what everybody's seeing on their screen? Oh, not you. Oh, interesting. You're at 60 frames per second. So yeah.
Does camera not do 24/5?
It does. So you can get either way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
This is because it changes.
Right after 48, we go to
so yeah, go ahead.
34.
If your frame rate isn't right, go into the camera menu and change your frame rate. Oh yeah, did you just see it? It was.
Yeah, I changed the bit rate to 35.
Oh, it's not the bit rate. The bit rate is you can keep it at whatever, but yeah, it's keep going. Just further up top. Okay, go back over here. Maybe it's, I think it's in shooting. Oh yeah. Where do you want to see it change the frame rate? We're having trouble finding it.
I think it's what actually looks, I think it's under MP4.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, right there. And then
Oh, yeah.
frame rate's right there.
Right.
Oh, it's just at 30. That makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. But you can choose, yeah. And then you want your shutter to be basically 1 over 48 or 1 over 50. Yeah, then you can just toggle that here. So 1 over 48 is it. Okay, so I think we're all pretty much squared away. So why don't we go, unfortunately we have to get these cameras back to the cage at 5 because they close. So, but at least you learned something. So why don't you go and practice, why don't you practice, let's see, basically practice doing some interesting focus shot, to practice changing the focus during a shot. And I don't know, just go ahead and go and shoot a few things to practice and come back in, I don't know, 8 minutes. Everyone should practice, actually, yeah, you guys can sort of swap with this camera and that camera to see the difference. But yeah, just go. This is slightly different. This is the Mark I. It's what did you notice being the main difference?
That's maybe the
Yeah, basically the viewfinder is a little more cumbersome, or the LCD screen. But other than that, fairly similar.
Okay,
So-
Zoom people, we are going to end our Zoom. Thank you so much for coming. I hope that this was helpful, even though it was complicated.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
Have a great
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.